Hey folks, I'm JC, and this channel is all about running fantastic one-shot adventures and short campaigns. And today I'm going to talk about a horror adventure that combines two things that I really love: the 1980s and freaky interdimensional terror. Signal to Noise is a Call of Cthulhu adventure written for Miskatonic Repository, Chaosium's publishing label for fans by fans. Like a lot of fan-made adventures, you'll find good content and mediocre content in the repository, but occasionally you'll find some real gems, adventures that throw away all the traditional elements of Cthulhu adventures, cultists, elder gods, and old libraries, and instead surprise players with something truly new. And to help me out in my review today, I'm joined by Saffron, who was a fellow player in Signal to Noise, but while she survived it, she's still trapped in an old 80s analog TV.
Hi everyone! Hey, you're gonna tell everyone that it's really easy to get lost in another dimension in this adventure, right? Seriously, I can't wait to share my thoughts.
Signal to Noise is one of those horror adventures that tries to rise above stereotypes, subvert expectations, and create a new kind of terror for investigators. In this adventure, a local TV station is dealing with creepy broadcasts that are hijacking the airwaves, while people are also going missing in town around the same times. Are these two events linked? Who's behind the strange broadcasts? And what's with the weird sightings of a staticky, ghostly woman in the remote parts of town? Well, if you're intrigued by this mystery, grab your tinfoil hat and get ready for some serious spoilers, because not only am I going to give you a review of Signal to Noise, but I'm also going to give you GM some tips and tricks on how to run this one like a pro. Signal to Noise is written by Colin Richards and runs just over 40 pages long. Despite its page count, it can be played in a single 4-hour session. But like with most investigative adventures, the playtime can really vary depending on your playgroup. Groups who want to scour the town for every possible clue might take 2 sessions to get through this adventure. Signal to Noise is set in the early 1980s, and boy is it. The entire adventure drips with authentic details from the 80s, and while it was easy for me, who grew up in the 80s, to grok everything going on in this adventure, I appreciate it that the author spent some page count to explain how key old school technology works. Things like VHS tapes, over-the-air television stations, Betamax, Teddy Ruxpin, and other equipment that will be alien to some of you watching this.
What is a Teddy Ruxpin?
Okay, so Teddy Ruxpin is not in this adventure, but he is a horrifying elder god that my fellow Gen Xers will recognize. Signal to Noise takes place in and around Summit Heights, Pennsylvania, a small town somewhere near the Poconos. The investigators are invited to the offices of the local television station, WSHP-TV, where the president of the station explains that he has a big problem. Several days in the last month, the station's broadcasts were interrupted, hijacked by some unknown pirates who played a very strange video on top of the ordinary programming. Downright creepy and disturbing, this video spooked the local community and triggered a lot of complaints. So he needs the players to investigate and stop the source of the hijacking, especially since his lead engineer, a guy named Frank Mars, has been missing for a whole week after searching for the culprits himself. And this is just too cool, the adventure actually includes video files of these creepy pirate broadcasts so that you can play them for your players. How amazing is that? Handout of the Year award, Colin.
Our GM, Keeper Jeff, set up a monitor right next to the table so that we could see the videos as he was talking about them. This really pulled us as players into the adventure.
And worse, the town is also experiencing a bout of missing persons. The police don't seem to be doing a good job following up either. So upon leaving the station, the investigators will soon spot that there's a local kid newly missing, the exact same time that the last creepy broadcast took place. And this missing person sign that they see alludes to something known as the Gray Woman.
Okay, I'll give a little more context since I lived through this adventure. Through new experimental equipment and an inconvenient lightning strike, the town has been invaded by interdimensional signal beings that live between our airwaves. One of those is the Grey Woman, a tall, Slenderman-esque creature made from static. Disturbing and unfathomable, the signal beings can break through the barriers of time and space, cause madness, and suck people into their strange dimension. The players will piece this together and eventually have to push back the dimensional madness before they full flood our world. And the only way you can stop them is to like and subscribe and hit that bell icon.
Thanks, Saffron.
Happy to help.
After receiving their briefing at the TV station, the adventure becomes an open-ended sandbox. There's many people for the PCs to chat with in town, and many places for them to visit. But there really are only 3 locales that drive the plot forward. The apartment of the lead engineer, Frank Mars, is abandoned. He's clearly been missing for at least a week. And they find out that a month or so ago, Frank installed an experimental signal amplifier on one of the nearby relay stations to try to get the station's signals to reach more folks. But lightning hit the tower and fried the device. Ho! Experimental signal booster installed! No one's gonna need rabbit ears ever again! I had nothing to do with it, wasn't me. The signal amplifier that got fried was designed by Frank's friend, Calvin McCluskey, the owner of a local VCR repair shop. These two were clearly friends and definitely went to Radio Shack together as one would do in the 1980s. And the PCs will find a handmade signal jammer, another device, in Frank's apartment, which was also designed by Calvin. Upon visiting the VCR repair shop, the PCs will find that Calvin is a friendly but paranoid type. He doesn't realize that his friend Frank has disappeared, but he theorizes that the pirate broadcasts would have had to have come from one of 3 relay stations located in the woods around town. These relay stations basically amplify the television studio's signal to the surrounding area. Calvin believes that government mind control conspiracies are at work here and probably behind the broadcasts, and he's been working on the design for a special signal jammer that he's willing to show the PCs how to build. This is the same signal jammer that the PCs may have found in Frank's apartment, but if they haven't, Calvin's willing to give them the blueprints to make the signal jammer themselves. Calvin's also seen the Grey Woman, that creature from this other dimension, but he's hesitant to reveal that.
Calvin was a fun NPC to interact with. RGM played him friendly and a little off his rocker, although you could probably go full-blown useless conspiracy theorist and it would still work. Calvin is a pretty important character to the adventure since he knows a lot about the previous events and 80s technology at work, so you should really emphasize and have fun with his character.
Finally, the PCs can visit the home of that missing kid, Jacob Stein. Poor Jacob vanished while watching cartoons one day, exactly when the strange broadcasts appeared. His mom has no explanation with where he went or how he disappeared, but around Jacob's room are creepy drawings of an entity. Here, the PCs may start to put together that those drawings are of those interdimensional entities that live between our radio signals. And while all of this is going on, and the players are going from place to place talking to people, they will start to encounter the Grey Woman herself. As a GM, it's important to have her appear early, just to creep the players out, but slowly ramp up the encounters over the course of the investigation. I recommend putting at least 2 sightings of her during that investigation. In the first one, maybe she's seen in the distance, like down the street or in the basement of the TV station, like lurking in the piles and the crates and the supplies. And then in a second encounter, have her appear when the PCs are alone, nobody else is around, and here's where she'll come closer. And she'll drain their sanity by causing sanity rolls and cause blood vessels to burst when they're looking at her. Use the Grey Woman sparingly, but effectively in the first hour or so of the adventure, just to really set up to the PCs that there's something weird and creepy going on. Once the PCs have visited most of these locations, they're going to piece together that something unusual happened when lightning struck one of the relay stations, the one where Frank and Calvin's experimental signal booster was installed, Relay Station 2. And they'll head out there. They'll find that the relay station is covered in weird red vines. They're actually veins and arteries that are connecting our world with the signal realm. And there's evidence that Frank was there, and that his signal amplifier was struck by lightning and may have caused that connection. Because if the veins are touched, the PCs will experience a weird vision of that signal dimension, where humans are clearly getting driven insane and even tortured.
The signal dimension is a really horrifying concept. It's basically a world that looks and feels like a mockery of television, filled with staticky creatures, alien machines, and just a lot of really gross stuff. Make sure to really describe this to the players when they have these visions.
The red vines run through the woods, where you as a GM should definitely plant another encounter with the Grey Woman or one of the other signal beings that are included in the adventure, like a couple of the blurry ones, these humanoid creatures that convulse and vibrate like puppets without strings. All of these creatures are really great, and as a GM, try to insert them in places where it makes sense. At the end of the vine path is the Forsaken House, an abandoned, decaying farmhouse covered in these red vines. And in the attic of the house is a sort of portal into the signal dimension through a door that features an endless hallway.
Endless hallways suck.
Because it's important that the PCs end up at the house and in the signal dimension, the adventure suggests using the Grey Woman or other entities to force the players into it. When I played, this wasn't that hard. Our keeper, the impressive keeper Jeff, really made it clear to us that the Grey Woman was basically unstoppable. So we had no choice but to hole up in the house and then up into the attic. And then when she and her other staticky minions started breaking in the attic door, we all fled into another door that led into that endless hall that crosses between our dimension and the signal realm. But it's possible when playing this that not all the PCs will take that route. If your players, for example, split up, the adventure recommends that you turn all the doors in the house into that same endless corridor. So if, say, some PC hides in a closet, the next time they open the closet door, they'll find themselves in that endless hallway. Yeah, this is a little hacky to force all the players into the signal dimension at the same time, but as a GM, think about a few backup options just in case the players don't all rush into that house as a group, because it is important to keep them all together in the last part of this adventure. The second half of this adventure takes place inside the signal realm, a connected series of halls and rooms that are mockeries of our world. There's 10 rooms described here, and each has a different kind of horror in it. Some rooms feature physical challenges like leaping over chasms. Others are more complex puzzles. Like one of my favorite rooms is one that has like a TV stage set up in it, a set, and there's two blurry ones there who are acting out a sitcom in an incomprehensible language. And they pause and look at the players for reactions. And players have to decipher symbols that are appearing to effectively be a live studio audience and laugh or boo or applause on cue. It's a really clever and fun room. Another one of my favorites is a vast room that actually looks like a forest. The PCs will definitely think they found a way out of the signal realm, but they haven't. They're basically in an infinite woodlands, and eventually, after wandering on for hours, they'll probably climb a tree and find themselves staring at 1,000 eyeballs watching them from the sky.
Eyeballs!
The signal realm section is a little tricky to run overall. The signal realm is basically a small dungeon with no map because it's all non-Euclidean or whatever. But as a GM, if you're not careful, this part of the adventure can really seem like a railroad to players. They'll go down a straight corridor, it looks endless, find a door, and it's whatever door as a GM you want to put in front of them. There's not a lot of agency here because unlike a real dungeon, there aren't forks in the road or clues about sections to avoid. It really leans on the GM to create that feeling of space. I I really wish the author had included a diagram or some such connecting those areas together so that GMs could better navigate the players through this section of the adventure. My recommendation is to either create a little flow chart yourself or just pick a handful of rooms, like 3 or 4, depending on how long you want this section, and then just draw a little map yourself with junctions and events that act as landmarks. Don't feel like you have to use all the rooms, just pick a few that sound cool to you. Maybe the PCs find a room with 2 doors in it. One door is natural wood and leads to that forest. The other door has weird laughter coming from inside, but it seems stuck or locked. And also in this room, if they look around, there's maybe a hatch on the floor that leads somewhere else.
There's a hatch in here somewhere? Okay, wait. Oh, I found it!
Now the PCs feel like they have a little bit more choices navigating the signal dimension. The signal realm also contains some NPCs who got pulled out of the real world and into this dimension. This is brilliant because in case one of the PCs dies or goes crazy, they'll have a replacement. And PCs can find Jacob Stein, the kid who went missing in here as well, which allows investigators to feel good and win the adventure by rescuing him. Eventually, the PCs will end up at the final room, the Screaming Library, a room full of shelves filled with vast numbers of VHS tapes. I guess it's kind of like Blockbuster. But in the center of this room is a mass of human flesh and TV sets all fused together in a massive column, with the TV sets screaming with the pain of its victims. And one of the bodies fused in this infernal contraption is the engineer Frank Mars himself. He's been transformed into some horrifying VCR, his body awaiting a tape. This is truly a disgusting and disturbing sight and makes for a great horrifying end to this adventure. And just as the PCs are staring at this contraption, wondering what on earth they need to do, the Grey Woman will reappear, determined to destroy the PCs and add them to the pile of flesh and electrical components. The trick to defeating the Grey Woman is to install one of the signal jammers onto this strange contraption, either the one that the PCs would have found at Frank's or the one that Calvin showed them how to build. This then makes the Grey Woman vulnerable to normal attacks with the jammer going off. And once they defeat her, the PCs can then find a tape from this vast library, one that shows their home destination, jam it into the VCR Frank, and that creates a portal in one of the TVs, allowing them to jump through and return home. And you veteran GMs are probably thinking, wait, what happens if my PCs didn't take a signal jammer? Well, that actually happened to us. We just left those all behind. But again, the author thought about this and he placed a room in the signal realm that contains a smaller flesh TV, which shows Calvin's shop displaying on it with the signal jammer visible. And the PCs can reach through the television and yank that jammer through to them. It's just really nice to have a backup solution for those stupid boneheaded groups that didn't take a jammer with them. And with the Grey Woman destroyed and the PCs returned home, signal to noise is concluded. So, what do I think? Oh, you're out of the signal realm, Saffron. Good job.
Yeah, the hatch led to this weird half-person, half-television thing, and I just crawled through.
Man, this is a good adventure. Like I said at the top, it feels fresh. The horror just really builds up as it goes on, and I like that the signal realm and its creatures feel alien and unfathomable. Even without elder gods, they feel like they fit right into Lovecraft's universe. And I also like that there's a lot of room for player agency during the investigation section, as well as backup options in the event that PCs do something totally unexpected.
The adventure just felt very well play-tested and very well thought out. And the fact that Signal to Noise comes with all those disturbing videos, a number of good handouts, and a nice collection of pre-generated characters means that this adventure is already immersive without much preparation from a GM. Fans have also created even more supplemental material, like photographs of the town and the equipment, so your players have even more information to go off of.
Really, my only criticism of this adventure, like I mentioned before, is that I wish that there was more GM help for how to guide the players through the signal realm without making it seem like a linear series of events. It does feel like a big switch going from that sandbox investigation at the beginning to losing most control at the end. But that's fixable with a little bit of extra prep on a GM's part. You just have to think about how to connect these rooms together in a way that feels explorable by your players.
I probably wouldn't recommend this adventure for new keepers either. The adventure does require that the GM hand out clues at the right rate during the sandbox portion of the adventure, and be able to explain some of those technical pieces that might not make sense to some players, like signal jammers and boosters and such. And the evil entities, like the Grey Woman, requires some finesse to know when and how to use. The Grey Woman is really powerful, so you have to tease her at the right moments before unleashing her on the players. If you use her too early, she'll probably just kill your players off immediately, but if you introduce her too late, the players may not piece together how to stop her in time. For keepers who are used to running investigative scenarios, Signal to Noise is fantastic and might just be an adventure to sharpen your skills.
But in the end, if you are looking for a fresh, modern horror adventure, definitely check out Signal to Noise. If you've played in this adventure, let me know in the comments below how it went. I'd love to know how your group fared and whether or not they even survived the end of the adventure. Until next time, I'm JC.
And I'm Saffron.
And just remember, when in doubt, be kind, rewind, or else the FBI notification at the beginning of the tape will become your reality.
No, the FBI isn't in this adventure.